Well, good morning and welcome to Monday morning. I can talk this morning. Monday Moments. This is Sandy with Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. And on Monday mornings, 9:30 Mountain Standard Time, we talk about life. Talk about things that it spills over into our homesteads, it spills over into our lives. And I hope that it some way impacts you, inspires you, and gets you motivated. So this morning we're talking about learning new skills later in life. Is that better? Is it worse? Is it harder? Is it easier? And why should we do it? And Rebecca, good morning, young lady. Rebecca, you're a hardworking woman, making all those hats for so many people and everything else that you do. So thanks for stopping by this morning. And Troy Sutton has popped in. Hello, hello. And so this morning we're talking about learning skills later in life. You know, a lot of times people say, "Oh, I can't learn that. My memory's not any good. I can't do that." But is it really ever too late to have a different starting point, to have a different idea, to do something new that you've never done before? And one of those things that when you learn a new skill in life, like there's a lot of people that become homesteaders after they retire. Um, what what can you learn and why is it better when you're retired? Ginger is here. Hello, hello. Good morning. But when you're learning a new skill later in life, you actually bring some things to the table that you don't have when you're younger. You have experience that you can pull from in whatever skill that you're learning. Penny Ortiz is here. Hello. How are you this morning? Just lots of friends just popping in. My hair is a little weird this morning, probably because I had it up in a bun. You have more patience. And honestly, you have a different perspective than when you were younger. Um, you you may find that that skill is more valuable because of what you want to do with it. And so that's always exciting. Um, for you, for me, it literally helps our brains. The older you are, you need to do things that stimulate your brain, that make your brain work in different ways than it's used to. Um, Sometimes you have more time now that you could even just the simplest thing of reading can help that your brain. And I think it's a good thing for your health. Learning new skills, even if at first you fail at that skill, because everyone fails at that skill. Um, One of my friends is always saying that, "Oh, I just don't have the words anymore. I can't think of the words." So I started watching younger people, and they do the same thing. In fact, my one daughter always says, when she can't think of what she wants to say, she'll say words, words. Um, and I had a class of young people this weekend, on Sunday, and none of them were over 40. And, and several times they were going, "Oh, what do I want to say? What are the words for what I want to say?" It's a continuous process our whole life, learning new skills. And the more we learn, the more our brain becomes cognizant to other areas in our life. And the whole process of learning a new skill is not about how fast you can do it. You want to learn a new language. You want to learn how to build um, maybe outbuildings on your homestead, sheds, chicken coops, fences. It's not about how fast you can do it. It's about learning that skill, learning it well, and doing it well. So maybe it takes you longer. It doesn't matter. Um, and you don't have to become a master of that skill. Get somebody that will help teach you that skill. You know, we'll go back to the building a chicken coop. Most homesteaders have chickens, Even if it's a backyard homestead, they have chickens, and so they need a coop. Now, of course, you can buy a coop at outrageous prices, if you ask me, but you can. But that whole process of learning how to cut the 2x4s, to use nails, or to use screws, what kind of roofing you're going to have. Even if you ask a younger person to help you to teach, they can be your mentor. Sometimes we always think mentors have to be older than us. They don't have to be. They just have to have mastered that skill. So learning late in life, I think it builds confidence. How many of you guys in the chat have learned something after you were 50 years old, if you're over 50? Have you learned a skill that you never did before? Or maybe you dabbled in it a little bit, but then you decided you really wanted to learn how to do that skill. Maybe you wanted to learn how to can, or make candles, or make soaps. Rebecca says she didn't learn to crochet until she was in her 50s. And that whole act of crocheting, that just is so good for your brain. You know, it stimulates you. There's different stitches, different things you can do. And it is amazing how it can spill over into other areas of your life, because it does build confidence. And maybe you've really got good at a skill, and then there's something else you want to try. And then all of a sudden it's like, I have the confidence. I think I could try that. I think I could do that. And there's just like so many opportunities, even if you don't have anybody around to help you with that skill. There's videos, there's libraries, there's, I have to say probably one of the best things about YouTube is the things that you can learn. I mean, there's silly and stupid and crazy things on YouTube. But like when Joe's going to do a new project, he has to fix something. He'll watch 10, 15, 20 different videos on that subject. And he'll go, okay, this I learned stuff. This video wasn't any good. But because he's watching a lot of them, it makes it so, okay, I can do this, And so I can't even tell you how many things he's taken apart and put back together with a new part in there, so that we didn't have that expense on our suburban homestead. And I think that is a fabulous thing. Now this is a quote that you might find online. It says, "We stop learning when we believe the lie that growth has an age limit." Think about that. We believe a lie when people say, "Oh, you're older, you can't do that," or "You can't learn that," or "That's not possible." But look around you. You can find people that will inspire you. Senior citizen centers have opportunities to learn skills. Extension offices have opportunities to learn skills. Or you might just Google, say you want to learn a skill. Say you want to learn how to graft an apple. You want to graft a scion onto an apple tree so it has more than one kind of apple. There's literally thousands of videos that can show you the different, like I like a whip and tongue graft that you cut and you cut and you cut like this, and it slides together and it just holds like crazy. You wrap it up and you can have multiple types of apples on one apple tree. In fact, I am doing some classes when I get back to Wyoming on grafting apple trees. And the people that take the class are going to come away with an actual tree that they grafted that they can plant in their yard. So I'm totally excited about that. I think when you learn new skills, when you learn anything, it helps you adapt with your life. It can help you adapt in work, life, people. It just really, I think it all comes back to self-esteem and confidence. When you start learning skills, you really build that confidence within yourself. Ginger says, "Penny, Sandy would be a great one to ask about Gona. I don't know what that is. I'm still trying to research. That's probably not even how you pronounce it. I don't know, Penny. We'll have to talk about that. It's probably a plant. I don't know. When I learned different skills throughout my life, when I decided I wanted to learn how to make soap, one, I wanted to be able to. Oh, Jake is here. Hello, Jake. How are ya? Good morning to you too. Oh, a ginger alternative. Penny, can't you grow ginger at your house? I mean, you can grow bananas. You should be able to grow ginger. I mean, I've grown ginger in pots. So, but I'll have to talk to you about why you want the alternative to ginger. So Jake, we're talking about why it's important to learn skills later in life. And is it better? Can you do it? Well, every single time I've learned a new skill, like soap making, I did it for a couple reasons. I wanted to be able to have my own, the fragrance I wanted. I wanted to know where my soap came from without a bunch of stuff in it. And I just thought it would be a fun skill. I thought it would be a good skill if I needed to make soap. And I found great joy in my life when I learned that skill. You know, I took some classes, I watched YouTube videos, I did it at home different times. I still have homemade soap at my house in Wyoming. I love it. And it just lasts and lasts and lasts. But it made me very happy. I was full of joy. I found it, you know, at first when you learn a skill, maybe it's tense because especially if it's a difficult skill. But then if you look at it as if it's a game, okay, this is a puzzle that I need to learn. Your brain starts functioning different. And Jake says, I try to learn something every day. That is just a fabulous goal. It can be big things, it can be little things, it can be things that enhance your life or your family's life. And I think that a lot of skills that everybody used to know how to do or have been just lost because it's just so easy to go to the store and buy it or have somebody else do it for you. And even if you fail, it's still a learning process. So you can say to yourself, okay, I have to do it in a different way to be successful. And I think it's so important for us, no matter how old you are. I think it makes you live longer. If you have things to do every single day, things you're learning, things you literally want to get up in the morning for. But the older you get, I've seen it because I live in a retirement little village down here in Yuma. And some people are very active and they're just like, they're going for it. They're doing stuff, they're learning stuff. But that's probably 20% of the people. And the rest of the people are just, you know, they're just there. You know, I find that, I mean, everybody gets to do what they want in their life. But how much more rich would their life be if they were learning things? And that small, consistent, like Jake is doing, he's learning something, trying to learn something every single day. That consistent striving to learn something, I think is just, it gives you bursts and to be motivated to do more things in your life. Like, I have always been a person, like, I like to work. Probably at times I was probably a workaholic that I need to be busy. That's what I need to do. I mean, there are times that it's like I worked all the hours in my whole day and there's like 2 hours before bed and I'll just read a book or the TV will be on. But sometimes when I'm watching TV, I do other things too, like paint or I'll go through things. So it's like background noise, but it's joyful to me. And you're right, Jake. It keeps life interesting. It's I think that when your children or your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren see a person that is always striving to do more things. I think that is such a great gift you're giving your children and grandchildren. That just because you've turned 60 or 70 or 80, you can do things. You can try new things. I remember when my kids were young, I was working at a restaurant, and one of the waiters, his father was 80 years old, and he had flown over to Europe, and he was biking through Europe for the summer at 80 years old. And I found that just so inspiring. So we need to be, not that you have to bike around Europe, but do something that your children and your grandchildren are going, this is a thing to do. Always strive, always try to do something new. Doesn't matter how old you are, what you've already done, all the time. What can I learn? What can I do? What can I, like when I want to add a different kind of fruit tree or berry, I do a lot of research before I before I add those in there. And that stimulates my brain. It makes me excited about it. It makes me full of joy. And it really makes it so that, okay, I have to have the right rootstock because I like to graft. I mean, not that I haven't bought a fruit tree at a nursery or a box store before, because I have. But mostly, 90% of the fruit trees in my yard, I have grafted myself. And so I do a lot of research. I want to know, will this grow? Will this not grow? And I have a good friend that lives in the South, and he grows a lot of apple trees. And many times he'll send me some scions, the part that I'm grafting onto the rootstock, just to try to see if it'll grow in my winters. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes our winters are just too cold because the zones are different. But I appreciate the idea that I can try that. And it just really builds my confidence that, yes, I can, I'm a good grafter. I've learned that skill. I can teach that skill. And as a homesteader, if you can hone in a skill, not only does it help you on your homestead, but it also helps you. You could do classes. It could be an added income stream to you. Maybe you want to, we'll just keep with the apple theme. Maybe you want to graft apple trees and then pot them up and grow them for a while and then sell them to other people. Getting a nursery license is very easy in Wyoming. Now, if I wanted to sell them out of the state of Wyoming, I'd have to go through another process. But like I have a seed license and a nursery license. And so when I graft, I can sell some of my trees that I graft. One of the things to always remember, it's not about being perfect, that perfection of it. It's about that process that you're learning. And it not only just stimulates your brain, I think it makes it all over healthy. The more you sit, the more sedentary life that you have, not everyone, but there are a lot of people that the pounds start to add on. You become, oh, I can't do that. I'm too tired. Do little things. Do little things that change. My friend down here, she's a great gal, and she started riding her bicycle. And she doesn't go very far. She just goes through the village. That's what we call it down here, our little village. We're actually in the town of Yuma, but our little part is called the village. And she rides her bicycle probably 3 or 4 times a day, all the way around. I think it's like 4 miles if you go through all the streets and all the way around. And over the last year, she's lost 35 pounds. I find that fabulous. She's out in the air. She's enjoying, she's doing the skill of riding a bicycle. And I just find that just little changes that make a big impact. Every new skill expands how you see yourself. Every time you learn something, maybe you learned how to make candles. Maybe you wanted to learn how to keep bees in your yard. And what are the things that you can do? Because you can just keep bees. And of course, they're just going to pollinate and they're going to do that stuff. But what about the honey? What about the wax in there? There's just so many processes that you can learn from that one skill. Like when you have a beehive by your garden, you're going to get more produce than you've ever had. Years and years and years ago, when I had my very first beehive. Gosh, I mean, it was a long time ago. The kids were little. And where I lived, we were in actually county, but there were houses around me. And so the county made me go to my neighbors that were around me and have them and ask them, tell them I was going to have bees. Was that something I could, they were okay with? And all my neighbors said yes. But by the end of the summer, all the ones that had gardens said that they had gotten more produce than they had ever had from their gardens. And I'm sure it was from the bees. So that was a skill I learned. And I was probably, almost 30 when I learned to keep bees. And now I keep bees. My sister keeps bees. My two brothers keep bees. So we're kind of a bee family. We like our honey. I often tease that I have become a honey snob because buying just regular honey in the grocery store, where it could come from many different countries, even though it may be labeled United States, and it could have corn syrup or rice water or different things added in there. I just don't like it. I like the honey from where I live. So, and honestly, when we travel, I usually try to buy honey from different places so I can try it. And the different shades of honey is very interesting. Up north in Wyoming, our honey is very light colored. And once in a while, depending on what the bees are, not where I live, but other places in the state can be a little bit darker, but it's still a light color. Where deep in the south, sometimes it's so dark colored because it's different flowers, different plants, and you learn these skills. You learn how to build that over in other parts of your life. Rebecca says, I get my honey from the farmer's market where I live. See, honey from where you live helps build up your immune system too. A lot of times when people are allergic to a lot of different pollens and stuff like that, they suggest that you buy local honey. Hi, Anne. How are ya? Thanks for stopping in. So when you buy honey, when you have allergies, always buy from a local beekeeper. And the suggestion that most people give is that you take a tablespoon of honey, just not mixed in with anything, just the tablespoon of honey every single day, and it will start to build up your immune system. And I find that very interesting. I find it, I could go on a whole tangent of bee stuff. It's just so fascinating to me. Anne says that I just started 3 bee boxes in the fall. Fabulous. I planted a linden. Now, a linden can get very big, so I have it in the front yard. And a linden flowers. And there's a few different kinds of lindens, but the ones that grow well in Wyoming, they can get 80 feet tall. But one of those full-grown lindens, when it flowers, those bees can produce more honey than 10 acres of alfalfa flowers. I find that fabulous from one tree. And so, will mine get 80 feet tall? Maybe not in my lifetime, but it certainly will eventually get that, unless somebody cuts it down. But it is a beautiful tree. It gives lots of shade, and it has a different purpose. So I learned, when you go to have bees and you want to plant things for your bees, because you're learning that skill, not just look at the flowers or the vegetables, look at the trees you can plant, because these are skills that you learn and you can share with others. People are wanting things for the pollinators. What can you plant? Learn skills about pollinators. It's just so many little skills and big skills that we have the possibility. Like, I think it's just learning the skill is seriously like an act of self-respect. You say to yourself, it doesn't matter that I'm 50 or I'm 60 or I'm 70 years old, 80 years old, even 90 years old. You can learn a new skill. You're worth learning a new skill. It's great for you physically, mentally, and you get to use that skill. I once read in a book about an elderly gentleman. They had orchards and stuff like that, but there was a new apple tree that he wanted to plant another orchard. He was 90 years old, and people said, "You'll never see those apples. You'll never get those apples. Why would you want to waste your time, waste your money on something you're not going to get the benefit from?" But he would not be deterred at all. He wanted to learn about this new apple. He liked the taste of it. He liked the way the tree grew. He liked how it was resistant to different viruses and funguses, because people that learn about apple trees look for that kind of thing. And if you graft trees or if you buy whips, that's just basically a tree and the sign is hooked onto the top. It's a whip. It doesn't, sometimes it has a few little branches, but a lot of times it's just the root system, the stalk, and that scion that they grafted on top. He lived to be over 100 years old, and he ate apples out of his orchard because sometimes, depending on the apple, what kind of rootstock you've grafted onto, it could take 6 to 8 to 10 years before you're really getting crops of apples. And I just found that so inspiring that at 90 years old, just because other people thought, that it was a waste of his time and his money and his energy, it got him up every day. It got him motivated in his life, and he lived to be over 100. And he learned those skills to make that orchard prosperous on a new tree that was out. I just found that just so inspiring, that I love stories about older people when they're doing things and they've started new businesses. Colonel Sanders didn't have Kentucky Fried Chicken until he was in his 60s. There's just so many stories if you want to Google things like that to be inspired. Skills that they decided, it didn't matter how old they were, it was going to be something that was going to be really keeping their mind flexible and curious and motivated. And I think that's important for all of us, no matter what age we are, to really want to wake up in the morning, really wanting to, no matter what age you are, if you want to learn something, if you want to do something, do it. And he says, I have only had a pure honey from my neighbor's hives. It is a medium clear for 4 years. I just was given honey from Butler's family farm in Heather. They all taste different. It blew my mind. Oh my gosh, so different, because one, there's several different kinds of bees that people have, different flowers, different plants, different trees that they're gathering that nectar and pollen from, and it makes it taste different. Throughout the summer, if you take honey from the hive throughout the summer, there's variations in that because there's different flowers blooming at different times. It's a great skill to learn to be a beekeeper. But what kind of skill is on your radar to do? Take Jake's advice and try to learn something every single day. It could be just little things, you know, little things about your homestead, little things about bugs in your garden, things about your soil, things about canning or baking, whatever it is, whatever makes you want to get up in the morning, learn it. Well, we're at 30 minutes. Thanks so much. And Thursday night, we were talking about, it's going to be kind of fun, what dirt, chickens, and bread have taught me about my life. Should be really interesting. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine. Enjoy your week. And I will see you next time.